Welcome, Mr. Christian Bishop, making sure I get your name right. Let me first thank our sponsors who have helped us here. The Foreign Exchange, Stephanie Phillips, U.S. Senate candidate, Carl Carterata, Clark County School District A candidate, Ron Quince, U.S. Congressional District 1 candidate, also Barbie's Goodies Donuts, and I can vouch for them. I had a chocolate one. Let me introduce myself. My name is Patrick, and I'll be the moderator today. The interview process goes like this. Number one, the panel members will introduce themselves by giving their name, position, and the organization they represent. Then each candidate, which will be just you, given 1 minute to introduce themselves and asked to explain why you are running and seeking our endorsements. Number three, candidate, please remember this is an interview, so there's no debate. You don't have anybody to debate, unless you want to debate me, then it'll be fun. Number four, when you receive a question from a panel member, you will be given 1 minute to answer the question. Andre will be the timekeeper. Actually, today it's Jim. He'll be the timekeeper. Once you receive the yellow card, you will be given 15 seconds to wrap up. Once you're given the red card, Jim will throw you out. So you have to stop then. No, he's not that bad. The candidate will then be given up to 1 minute for a response, and then at the end of that, you can introduce yourself and tell us more about your website, et cetera, et cetera. All right? Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. The panel will now introduce themselves. I forgot that. Go ahead. Young man.
Kylie Tuckett, veteran in politics.
Joaquin Perrier with Armed Forces Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. Matthew DeFalco, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans in Politics International.
Good morning. Here representing Veterans in Politics. Oh, Barbara Lucian. Hi.
Steve Horner, and I am part of the Nevada Democratic Military Families and Veterans Caucus.
Barbara Dreyer, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
And Mikey Kelly, welcome, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me here today. Thanks for what you do. Christian Bishop. I'm running for state senate out in Henderson. That's SD5. I'm a son to a single mother of 4 kids. Spent half my life, was born in Los Angeles originally, and then spending half my life in Florida, raised by my grandma, aunts, uncles, ended up going to military boarding school out in Melbourne by Patrick Air Force Base. Spent 5 years there, graduated at the top of my class, and had a great time being inspired by leaders, which ultimately put the bug of service into me. That's transitioned through my adult life. Got my MBA at UNLV, where I participated at Det 4 with the Air Force there, because I plan on going JAG and joining the reserves after I graduate from law school this year. I'll be serving my community here in the Senate. Glad to be here. I'm an entrepreneur, business owner, have a healthcare company with 40 nurses that provide care here in the Valley. My wife's a nurse over at Mountain View Hospital, so service means a lot to us. So I'm glad to be here. My dad was a veteran. He served in Vietnam, and both my grandparents were as well. So I'm glad to be here, guys.
Okay. All right, Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans in Politics International. One simple question. In your state Senate district that you're running for, approximately 5,120 vets are living below the poverty line or homeless. What are you going to do to address this issue?
We're going to support it and fund it at the legislative level, right? So to address homelessness, especially for our vets, that's something we can't have, something I won't support for sure as any opposition against that. So we're definitely going to make sure we provide the resources. I'd like to see a veteran center open up in Henderson, something that we can fund and support with an administrator that's there to help vets. I think we do a good job with the Veterans Court there that helps a lot of people in Henderson, actually. It's something that I'll also continue to support and fund.
First of all, thanks for being here. It's disappointing that only one of the 4 candidates in your race showed up, so we're grateful to have you. In 2019, Nevada opened up the Northern Nevada Veterans Home. Many veterans, including veterans on this panel, raised alarm bells when the state decided to privatize the facility. In April 2022, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services issued 37 health citations to the home, nearly 5 times the national average and 3 times the average for other Nevada facilities inspected by CMS. The Northern Nevada Veterans Home received a 2 out of 5 star rating from CMS because of health inspection failures, including several for deficiencies in quality of life, infection control, and pharmacy service. In contrast, the Veterans Home in Southern Nevada, which is run by the state and is not privatized, is rated 5 stars. Given the series of disasters at the Northern Nevada Veterans Home, what is your stance on changing the privatization of the facility to ensure the safety and well-being of veterans in the future? And I'm not looking for words of support. We all know good things are good, bad things are bad. I'm looking for a yes or no. Will you support the changing the privatization of the facility?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Bishop. Joaquin, Armed Forces Chamber. If elected, how will you use your education, business experience to serve voters?
I think that's a great example Mr. DeFalco brought up earlier. I don't think the care of our veterans should be privatized or corporate interest should be involved. It's not about profits. It's about caring for people that cared for our country and put their lives on the line to do that every day. So I understand the clear difference of separating corporate interest, profits, our free market capitalist system from doing what's right and caring for people that have been there. It's very two distinct differences for me in my life. That's why I'm going to be joining the force and something I believe a lot. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself and serving our country. So you'll see a clear distinction there for me in the legislature.
Kylie Tuckett, Veterans in Politics. So for community members and veterans who aren't familiar with the state Senate district position, what can you educate them on your roles and responsibilities, as well as the biggest change you would like to see in your district?
Yeah, look, absolutely. In the legislature, the way bills get passed, ultimately that impact both budgets, criminal statutes, and our guidelines and civil components too that can come up, is you have to get passed in both houses and ultimately get signed by the governor, right? So we can bring about 10 bills. That's what I'll be able to bring as a freshman senator. And we have to get that passed on the Senate. Then you'll go over to the Assembly, where then it gets voted on by your Assembly members to ultimately, hopefully, get signed off by the governor. But you're legislating. You're literally passing and creating laws in the state, which is for me, especially as a person of color, as a black man, having a vote is really important, right? I think we've seen a lot of efforts and movements by the people, especially these past few years. The protest, which really has been a big part of driving me ultimately to run. So we got to have a vote. We got to have a say, an opportunity as the people up in our legislative body that are actually passing law. I'm going to be passing a lot of good work for the people of things we care about, like veterans issues, and supporting and funding these programs, especially for my Senate district in Henderson, where we got a lot of vets.
Hello, Barbara, Veterans in Politics. Safety in schools is obviously a huge issue out here, and I would like to know what your plan is to try to get some collaborative safety issues going on with the school, with the fire department, the police department, and get some collaboration.
Yeah, you probably hit one of the most important issues to me. On my A-frames and billboards you see throughout Henderson, it literally says champion for school safety. I think school shooters are the biggest cowards in the world. So I definitely plan on working with our law enforcement as well as activist groups to think through how do we appropriately legislate? Is it minimum sentencing guidelines? What is it going to be to hold folks accountable that are putting kids at risk? What are we doing to address mental health concerns and questions as well? Of how do we get here in the first place? Because those are literally my nightmares of thinking through what happens to our children.
Steve Horner. And suicide among veterans continues to rise. In spite of some of minuscule funding that they did 4 years ago, what can you do to create new programs and new situations to help veterans curb this trend?
Thanks for the question, Mr. Horner. Listen, right, to our veterans and provide the support and funding that they need is what's important to me. I don't have it exactly perfectly figured out to solve that, but I'm definitely going to listen and follow the guidance of people that have led in our country to do what we need to do and be a supportive ally.
Barbara Dreyer, I have a two-part question. So I taught in a behavior school here in Las Vegas that was subsequently closed by CCSD. What are your ideas for improving effective discipline in schools? And what is the significance of April in regards to the military family?
Yeah, so I think we need to think through how do we appropriately hold kids accountable through our education system as well, both academically as well as behavior. I think it matters. I think the core of our country is the American family, right? Holding people together in the front lines and people that are dealing with a lot every day of everyday challenges. But we got to support our educators as well so they can do their good work in schools. And I want to do that with administrators as well. But we got to be thoughtful of the different communities we have and the kids and the challenges. Every kid is a little bit different too. How do you go about that? And we want to make sure that kids are also supported as well as our administrators and educators. It's not a us versus them or a different challenge. How do we all support one another and get back to progress versus divide? It's really important to me.
Mikey Kelly, Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus. To follow up on Matt's question, the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, which is the state department that oversees the veterans' homes, and they also oversee our cemeteries, and they provide veteran service officers throughout the state that process veteran claims, is under a state investigation because of accusations of gender, sexual discrimination against employees there throughout the state. These complaints were brought to state EO. They were ignored. They were brought to various members of the legislature, and they were ignored. Finally, one of the state employees brought it to the media, and then now all of a sudden they're being held accountable. But this has been happening for almost 2 years. Kind of echoing that same thing about yes or no, as a state legislator, we understand it's a part-time legislature with a full-time executive branch, but ultimately oversight of that executive branch still rests with that part-time legislature. Will you use your power as a state senator to hold executive branch agencies accountable when they're not doing their jobs?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bishop, thank you so much for being here and answering all our questions. You get 1 minute now to sell yourself. Tell us your board. Sorry?
Yeah, okay. Well, I just want to, first off, say, as many years as I've been doing this, that is the fastest, most efficient question and answer period I've ever went through. But since we still have some time, if any of the panel members have another question, why don't you go ahead and ask Mr. Bishop a question, please.
Yeah, so Kylie Tuckett, Veterans in Politics. So I asked you, it was kind of a two-part question, but you answered like what you do, right? However, what is the biggest change you would like to see in your district?
Yeah, so economic development is really important to me. When I think through creating new opportunity, helping attracting new industries, companies, organizations to our state, expanding our economy as well, and ultimately for high-paid, skilled jobs. But I want to see that integrated with our education system, right? If companies are going to come here, we're going to provide resources and support for them to come. How are they working with our school system? Not just K through 12, but colleges, grad schools, trade schools as well. I'd like to see them integrate, providing programs for internships and resources to our kids. That's really important to me. They're connected. I'm going to continue to support our healthcare system as well. My wife's a nurse. I know what she dealt with, especially through the pandemic. It's been a lot. Got 40 nurses who work for me and work with me, and it's something that I'm going to continue to be an ally and support them as well. And education. I think we all see the divide, and we have concerned parents all throughout the state. That actually makes me optimistic, right? We are constantly talking about our school board system and helping support our trustees and the new superintendent, hopefully with a nationwide search, is going to be important to me to support the school system in Henderson too.
Got a question. Clark County Sheriff Kevin McMahill has proposed establishing a wellness center for police, fire, and medical personnel. The center aims to provide mental health support and a fitness facility for first responders to address unresolved trauma and promote overall well-being. The state may be called upon to help. Will you commit to supporting Sheriff McMahill's initiative to establish the wellness center and ensure its effective operation for the benefit of our police officers, firefighters, medical personnel, a significant number of whom are military veterans in their physical and mental health?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a quick question. Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans of Politics International. I actually wanted to pose this to someone else, but since you're here and you're a vet, maybe you can answer this for me. Statistics show that only 30% of veterans take advantage of their GI educational benefits. In the last Rasmussen poll, I just messed that up, 90% said they don't because they're already prepared for anything that the higher educational system could provide them. What would you do to help change their mind or put pressure on regents to improve the higher education here in Nevada so vets will actually take advantage of their GI educational benefits?
Yeah, so just point of clarity, not a veteran yet, no stolen valor here, haven't quite earned that. Will be joining the JAG when I finish law school. I'm not interested in pressuring vets to do any of that personally. I'm interested in making sure that the resources are there in the event they choose to take advantage of them based on their track record and what they'd like to do for their lives and their families. But the regents in our school system, we do need to improve. We need to do a better job educating folks and providing support as well across the board. Education, to me, sits at the center of everything that we do in our society. We all have our phones. I think it's the greatest access to information today that we have. You have the ability to learn. You can also have the ability to learn a lot of different ways, right? So it's not just one track record. I got my MBA, half of it online. I'm finishing a law school online as well, right? I go back to New York twice a year to do it. So I think there's different ways to learn for different people and have different processes. But I also believe in lifelong learning when people want it and they're ready for it. So let's meet people where they are.
I have a question, and this goes to our public employees retirement system, PERS. And as a veteran and as a retired teacher, I had to wait 5 years when I got out of the Army to become fully vested in PERS. And I was wondering, could you support giving veterans who choose to go into public service, let them become fully vested after a short period of time in probationary period? And how would you fund that?
Yeah, good question on the funding. I think it ties in yes, I could support it. Absolutely. You're not going to hear me push back against veterans. I'm very supportive. I know my dad goes through, especially the VA, and he's been fighting it for years, constantly trying to address things. So I'm very supportive. How we fund it is tied to my passion of economic development, right? I believe in abundance. I believe in driving innovation and growth. With that, you can do things for people. That's the way that I see it. Let's fill our cup and have more resources and create more value. And then let's do things for people as well. So I'm big on empathy, and I'm also big on balance, and I think you can do both.
I just wanted to come back to the month of April. Do you know what significance it is
What is it?
for military families?
No, what is it?
The month of the military child. So purple would be the color, represents the struggles, the unique struggles that military children go through.
I didn't know that. No, thank you. I should have worn purple. Who wore purple today?
We're supposed to get those shirts, so I didn't do purple today, but.
Well, please, I'm glad to support that
Yes.
as well. So please, we're always with our team. So it's something I love to get behind.
Yeah, and just the transients of kids that move around so much. Vegas is a transient city as it is, let alone the military families who have that built in. Is there anything you could think of that you could do to support those children?
Yeah, I think when I think of what military boarding school was like for me as a kid, going from 8th grade, five guys in a room, until I graduated, connection and community was critical, right? I grew up as a nerd, was bullied and picked on, right? Moved around a lot, wasn't black enough, wasn't white enough. You're different all around. You're a nerd. I wore headgear, braces, headgear, had glasses, paratoed. Wasn't everybody's necessarily favorite and first pick through things. And I've grown up and worked on myself a lot, but military boarding school and I think leadership and working together, being a team and the core values that a lot of our military represents, there's a lot of things that bring people together and not divide us. So continue to provide resources. That's why I love community centers, right? Places for people to come together and young people to come together and participate is amazing and beautiful. So I'd love to find ways to support it and people that are doing that work that care.
We got time for one more question.
All right, thank you. I heard you say you're a lifelong learner. Be careful you'll end up like me on the board of Regents for NSHE. So, but that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your answers. They were, well thought out. Let me first thank our sponsors, the Foreign Exchange, where we are now. Number 2, Stephanie Phillips, U.S. Senate candidate. Number 3 is Carl Carterata, Clark County School Trustee, District A candidate. Number 4 is Ron Quince, U.S. Congressional candidate District 1. That's my district. He's the candidate there. Also, please, I must remember, and I enjoy their donuts, Barbie's Goodies donuts. The chocolate donuts are great, and I think you had one of the plain ones, or someone was eating a plain one. So they're great. Now you have 1 minute to sell yourself. Give us your website. Tell us what you are all about, all right?
What about our debate? What about our debate, Patrick?
We'll have that up.
Patrick's
I'm
scared.
ready for that.
Patrick's scared. No, glazed donuts over chocolate donuts, my man. But no, look, just gratitude, right? It's just a lot of work for you guys as well. A lot of races, even on the weekends, right? You guys are putting a lot back to back and a lot of different stuff. So I'm doing the work. That's why I'm running, right? We're doing the work. We're doing something about it because we care. That's what it's about. Feel free to visit my website, christianbishop.com. You can reach out on Instagram, social media, whatever you want to connect. But glad to continue being an ally and supportive. But thanks again for having us today.
Did you want to spell out that website so people can get
Christian, CHRISTIAN, and then Bishop, BISHOP.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much.